Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, everyone. How you doing? And hey, I hope you're having a wonderful week and you are ready to, well, close it out with none other than Computer America and, of course, Ralph Bond. He will be joining us for the entire hour today as we, talk about science and tech trends and news stories, stories that really emphasize what technology can really accomplish and what it can do. Hey, this is one of the more uplifting news segments that we have because sometimes news can get very downer, killer robots and things like that. This is hopefully not going to be that. So everyone, welcome into the program. Before we get started, first things first, computeramerica.com. That will be, where you find everything, including links to the show notes. It will have a link to Ralph's website. It will have a link to any product stories. Anything and everything will be found at computeramerica.com, as well as, the show notes themselves. Ralph puts a lot of work into them. And hey, now we've changed up the format just a little bit, but I think it's going to be a good change for the better as, kind of as we can talk about these things. So everyone, so computeramerica.com, podcast, the live video feeds up there as well. Everyone, one last time, happy Friday. Hopefully you're doing good and you are ready to get started. So waiting patiently in the wings is none other than Ralph Bond. If you haven't heard of him, he is our longtime Computer America correspondent and, been here probably longer than I have. And, and of course, hey, just happy to have him. So Ralph, how you doing? Welcome back on.
I'm doing great. And hey, before we start on our tech news, I need some advice. I want to rent a movie tonight. Should it be Aquaman or Captain Marvel? Do you have guidance for me?
Wow. That's like saying, would you rather find $100 or what's 100 euros equivalent to dollars? Both are good. You can't go wrong with either.
Okay.
Personally, Captain Marvel, and obviously the only differentiation I would give you, Ralph, one is obviously DC and one is Marvel. I don't know which one you're more engrossed in, but maybe that should be the deciding factor. Like, are you caught up on Marvel movies?
Not completely. So I don't know. It's a tough decision. Maybe I'll flip a coin.
There you go. No, hey, perfect. So hey, Ralph, thank you for coming on. Before we get started, how are you? How have you been?
I'm doing great, and you made a great comment about so much of the news today is so negative and such despairing, unfortunate stuff. And it's so great to come on once a month and do uplifting and inspiring technology stories that really show us where technology is helping us make a better world, not a scarier world.
Absolutely. And of course, we have a number of stories. I think you mentioned that we had like 13 different stories. Ralph usually mentions this. I'll go ahead and do it right now. We normally don't get through all of them. We're going to change up the format here. So maybe, we move a little faster, but at the same time,
right.
Still get the articles out. But hey, if we don't, then the show notes at Computer America will have them after the program. So
right.
Just like that. Okay, let's see, and we're gonna go ahead and throw the show notes up on the video portion. And in the meantime, Ralph, why don't we go ahead and get started with story number 1?
Yeah, you got it. And what the change up in the past way we've been doing things that Ben's alluding to is that in the past I'd extract either entire short articles or major sections of articles and basically kind of read them to the audience. And we're going to change that up. What I've done now with this, starting this show, is do greatest hits from these stories, kind of extractions to get to the essential points so that Ben and I can add more commentary to it and get the audience maybe to participate as well. So with that said, our first story comes from Gizmodo magazine. Headline. You got to love this headline. The Pentagon has a device that can use a laser to identify someone based on their heartbeat. What?
That's scary.
Irresistible headline, right?
Sure.
So here's the first point. Or Ben, did you want to jump in with something?
No. But let's go. Well, I said this is scary, obviously, and
Well, actually, this is scary. I just told you it wasn't going to be scary. I guess I lied right out of the gate.
But hey,
This could
let's
be
spin
scary.
Let's spin it as a way of national security. So go ahead.
Okay, yeah, let's go with that. So here it is. The Pentagon's, I love this, Combating Terrorism Technical Support Office has developed a device that can identify people based on their cardiac signature using an infrared laser. Now, I'm going to tell you in advance, this is a very early stage technology, and there's certainly some limitations as we're going to find out. But the implications of this are interesting both in the positive and possibly the scary side of things. But the device called Jetson, I wonder if that has any reference to George Jetson, the old cartoon from, the 60s about the future, right?
Right.
Anyway, the device called Jetson takes about 30 seconds to identify the target using what's called laser vibrometry. I hope I'm saying that right. Vibrometry. How would you say that, Ben?
Vibrometry.
Thank you. A non-invasive technique that looks at the vibration measurements caused by someone's heartbeat, as well as an algorithm. So it combines with an algorithm and this detection. Now, the device reportedly works from 200 meters away. Through normal, that's a key point here, through normal clothing, such as maybe the shirt I'm wearing here, but wouldn't be effective through thicker materials like a winter coat. So there's another limitation. So 30 seconds to identify normal clothing, not thick clothing. So you can see some of the limitations at this stage.
So
and then
this is completely not useful for the entire Russian Federation. I guess at this point, we
in
just
certain
roll
times
them
of
all
the
out.
year, maybe for a couple of months out of the year, they might be wearing shirts like this.
I gotcha. Okay.
And because it takes half a minute to identify someone, they would need to be in a stationary position. So when you add all these limiters together, it's very specific, very limited. I could see it maybe in perhaps some kind of highly secure building, and you make the person, such as you do at the airport, stand in one of those booth-like things and maybe make them stand there for 30 seconds completely still without any kind of blocking garments or heavyweight garments. Maybe that would work. But otherwise, it's got a lot of limitations. But the idea that you're doing an identification, not by fingerprint, not by eye scan, so on and so forth, but by your each of us have a unique cardiac signature. I just thought that was fascinating.
It's crazy. I didn't even think of that. And although I guess I would have to kind of question, and this may be in your point where you said it takes about half a minute to identify someone, as you said, but I get that my cardiac signature is unique. How does the FBI know what my how does the Pentagon know what my cardiac signature is?
Yeah, it's like a fingerprint thing. Wouldn't it be a situation where first you have to be at some point scanned, either knowingly or unknowingly, so that it would be in a database, and then if you pop up in an airport or you're involved with some kind of terrorist act or something, they'd be able to re-identify you. So you raise a good point. Again, another one of the, I guess you could say, limitations. The author of the article, by the way, ends by saying, while Jetson, this technology, is presented as an anti-terrorism technology designed for the Department of Defense, it's not hard to see how such systems can eventually be exploited upon, especially as the government begins to generate a database of unique cardiac signatures. So there's your kind of dark side of the story. Boy, did I lie at the beginning about upbeat and inspiring stories and nothing scary. Right out of the gate, we're getting scared.
Well, at the same time, though, I'm very interested in biometric, kind of technology, because what we don't know about is, even though it's still being used, if we don't know about it, you can't, take. You can't, if you're educated about what you're being used to identify you, then you can't, speak out against it, advocate against it, or, be for it. I know that, there was the airport, I think it was Air France, is going to require everyone have a facial scan and facial recognition before they fly. That story I think just came out yesterday. And so, like you said, between fingerprints, your face, your unique cardiac heartbeat, I'm just wondering, how long is it going to be before we, kind of say that, hey, we can identify anyone? Because at some point, if you've gone through modern society, if you were born in a hospital, if you were, if you got a driver's license, if you took a flight, at what point do we say you have participated in society and we can identify you based on that?
Yeah, yeah, and I'll give you it's a fun little story. I'm in the Portland, Oregon area, as you know, Ben, and many of
Hmm.
the listeners know as well. Big controversial story in our local newspaper recently about I don't know if it was actually a plaid pantry kind of 7-Eleven like outlet, but that kind of a store, one of these chain stores.
Right.
And it was in an area of the city that unfortunately was prone to a lot of petty crime, shoplifting, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So they actually installed a system before you can get into the store. You have to stop and look at a camera, and it does a facial recognition thing. And if you're somebody that's been caught before shoplifting, whatever, you can't open the door. It will not let you in the store. How's that for something of interest in terms
It's
of, facial recognition that you mentioned?
and it's so interesting because I think as a society, we try to do that on a much more inaccurate level.
Hmm.
And I think this is where technology kind of gets in trouble sometimes, is that
Hmm.
technology can be much more accurate. But Ralph, store owners have been doing that for, I'm sure, hundreds or thousands of years, where they'll, in recent times at a gas station, they'll, print out a picture and say, don't let this
Yeah,
person
right.
shop here. Except
Yeah.
instead of the cashier having to try to remember all the shoplifters, it's a camera that can do it, with a high degree of accuracy.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. Some parts of me wince at this idea, other parts of me go, I get it, and so it's one of
Yeah.
those toss up in the air sort of things. But
Yeah.
the next story,
Go for it.
number two here, is a great example of one of the ultimate putting your trust and your life into the hands of technology at your disposal. So this is a story from TechCrunch, and the headline is NASA's X-59 supersonic jet will have a 4K TV, or really screen, instead of a forward window for the pilot. Now let that sink in for a second. No
Because
cockpit,
who needs to see when
traditionally,
you
no
fly?
window. You're inside. You're the pilot. You're inside this aircraft, and your view of the world is solely based on a camera and this 4K screen. Let that sink in for a second.
Who needs to be able to see to fly? It's totally overrated.
Not me. I've done it in simulation a lot of times. Close my eyes and die. But here's the story. It says NASA's X-59Q SST experimental quiet supersonic aircraft, and that's a key for why they got rid of the traditional cockpit, we'll find out, will have a cockpit like no other, featuring a big 4K screen where you'd normally have a front window. And it goes on to say the X-15, which is being developed by Lockheed Martin on a $247 million budget, is meant to go significantly faster than sound. And here's something fun, without producing a sonic boom, or indeed any noise, as they say, louder than the sound of a car door closing, at least to observers on the ground. So you're on the ground, this thing breaks the sound barrier. For you on the ground, it's just going to be like a closing of a car door near you. It's that quiet, which is kind of interesting, right?
I recall when breaking the sound barrier was, and I'm sure it still is, completely illegal to do over inhabited places and
Right.
places, buildings, because it'll shatter windows.
Right.
It will cause a lot of destruction. So to think that they can somehow manage to do the same thing that would shatter windows, hurt people, make babies cry, is now going to be no louder than a car door. That's impressive.
Isn't that something? So it goes on to say, naturally, in order to do this, the craft has to be as aerodynamic as possible, which precludes the cockpit bump in the design often found in fighter jets, right? In fact, the design can't even have the pilot up front with a big window because it would likely be far too narrow, plus the drag factor, right? And Lockheed and NASA's plane is currently in the construction phase, though no doubt some parts are still being designed as well. And the program, here's something interesting too, a rather aggressive timetable here. The program has committed to a 2021 flight date, an ambitious goal considering this is the first such experimental or X-plane the agency has developed in some 30 years. Wow, I didn't realize that. The whole story on so many levels is fascinating, not least of which the idea, as I said at the outset, of, wow, putting your life into the hands of the technology,
Well,
flying basically blind and letting the machine and the cameras and so forth really guide you. It's pretty amazing.
I've heard that argument before, with friends who buy trucks and they buy, like the old school trucks with like the roll down windows. And I'm like, why do you prefer the crank handles? And they're like, oh, it's just one less thing to break.
Yeah.
It makes sense for a lot of consumer technology, but I guess when it comes to an experimental plan like this, they have their own design reasons why they can't do it, which I totally get. But at the same time, if you're flying something like this from Lockheed Martin and NASA, I'm not saying that you have to trust technology. It's just you well, actually, I am saying it. You have to trust technology at that point. You can't say, well, what if the monitor fails? You can't even rely on that. I mean, it has to be reliable, but that's the only way to make it work. So
Yeah. And by the way, listeners, if you please go get the show notes, as Ben said at the beginning, because we have the images and links to videos in some cases for some stories. But the picture of that aircraft, you can see, is a really curious looking thing. It looks kind of like flat nosed at the front, missile like fuselage with a huge engine in the back, little stubby wings. But there's no cockpit, right? I mean, that's the thing or no traditional cockpit at all. So fascinating.
I would definitely say missile-like, where actually it kind of tapers even further down the nose, and all the way back it's almost a straight shot missile. But then at the same time, it has a jet propulsion kind of engine in the back. It's curious. Doesn't begin to describe this thing, but I guess a plane that can do something like break the sound barrier without alerting the people on the ground would be very different than anything we traditionally have had. So, and you're right. The 2021, I've seen timelines like that. Was it Elon Musk said that we were going to have self-driving cars by 2019? And, we're getting there. We're not there yet. I think 2021, when it comes to ambitious, I don't know if they're going to make that, but probably within the next 5 years. This is something that won't take you from point A to point B, but maybe, I guess, Lockheed Martin, maybe the military is going to have use for this. I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure of that. You can bet.
Perfect. So, story number 3. And, a lot of times on the show, we have covered things like, things like JAWS and other things that help people with disabilities to interact with technology, either through speech or voice or, kind of motion control. We love the story about the Xbox controller that let people manipulate the Xbox with, by kind of configuring a control. I don't know the numbers about how many people are actually physically disabled or in one way impaired and, compared to the wider population. But lately, over the past couple of years, there has been a lot of emphasis on getting people of all disabilities and all capabilities to be able to use technology like anyone else. So
and you're right, Ben. And last month, I believe we had a story, if I recall right, about a company that's developed a technology that allows the person who's in a wheelchair who cannot even use their arms, right? Not in addition to their legs, and hence why they're in a wheelchair, but they have limited ability or no ability to use their arms to drive their electric wheelchair through facial expressions. So like smile to go forward, frown to go back, that kind of thing. That was last month. This story's kind of interesting because it's Comcast has a remote that lets people with physical disabilities control the TV with their eyes. So it's another example of extending eye control for the disabled.
Very cool. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, this is from USA Today. There's a great little photograph of a gentleman in a wheelchair, and he's controlling his experience on TV with his eyes. But here's the story. Comcast has launched a free web-based remote on tablets and computers that lets Xfinity X1 customers with spinal cord injuries, ALS, or other disabilities to change channels on the TV, set recordings, launch the program guide, and search for a show with their eyes. The free X1 eye control works with whatever eye gaze hardware and software system the customer is using, as well as the sip and puff switches. I think you're familiar with this. People in wheelchairs have these little straw things, and they can also control through sip and puff, it's called. So other assistive technologies can work with this solution they've come up with for their customers. Now, Comcast customers pair the web-based remote with their set-top box, after which the person can gaze at a button to send a corresponding command to the television. Users might visit an accessibility menu with their eyes to summon voice guidance, video descriptions, and closed captioning. So it's just a nice thing. Thank you, Comcast. A lot of us have very negative feelings about our internet and TV providers these days, but I have to say salute to Comcast for doing this for these severely disabled folks.
I'm actually kind of curious, and obviously they said it was the free X1 eye control. A lot of the kind of earlier things that we mentioned, and great memory with the wheelchair one with the facial recognition.
Right.
A lot of these companies make the software open source so that anyone can take it, adapt it,
Yes,
put it
that
on
would be
anything.
nice. Yeah.
I know that JAWS does that as well, and having it open source, I'm hoping that Comcast, whatever work that they put into this, I hope that they put it back out there. So I know that
I agree.
just to think that Comcast has this, whereas maybe DirecTV or something doesn't. No, I hope that they all work together and they all kind of contribute to, kind of share, so that if it works well with one customer base, why not share it with all the other customer bases? So
I think in this case, it's not a place to somehow make it a profit thing because you attract more disabled customers to your subscription service. No, it should go to a higher level of motivation. I'm with you 100%. Good comment.
yeah, I certainly hope that they kind of share. But at the same time, you can see, and the reason I kind of say open source is because they say that it works with whatever eye gazing hardware that you have, and of course Sip and Puff, and also software system that customers may be using. Makes me think that that's what they did. They kind of adapted what was already out there to also work with their system, which is perfect. So yeah, no, very, very interesting story. Like we said, being disabled is hard enough. Technology is hard enough even when you're not disabled. And so, hey, let's make it easier for everyone. Story number 4. Go ahead.
Yeah. Story number 4. Now this this has I broke my promise at the beginning. This has scary factors and kind of cool. So it's cool and scary at the same time. This comes from Engadget, a story by Christine Fisher. The headline: MIT made an artificial intelligence system that can detect and create fake photographically real images. And the subtitle is, it offers valuable insight into how neural networks learn context. So here's the deal. This is really pretty interesting if you let it sink in and think about it. Creating digital renderings and editing images can take hours, but researchers from MIT and IBM want to change that. They've trained artificial intelligence to generate photographically realistic, super photoreal images from scratch. And here's the key: and to intelligently edit objects inside of them. Now, it gets more interesting as we go on. While this could be beneficial for artists and designers, that's the plus side, the uplifting side of it, it also offers insight into how neural networks learn context. And the team hopes to leverage the tool to spot fake or altered images. In the world of fake news, fake social media, fake this, fake that, this is potentially kind of neat. It's the project is called GAN, G-A-N Paint, run together as one word, GAN Paint Studio. And the tool is available as a free demo. That's kind of cool. And rather than manually, let's take an example. So let's say you have an image of a landscape. All right. So rather than manually add a tree to the image through Photoshop or some other cut and paste kind of approach, you can tell the tool where you want the object. So again, think of the landscape picture and say, I'd like a pine tree here. You can tell the tool where you want the object, and it will add one that matches the scene based on creating it associated with the things that are already in the image and its database knowledge, if you will, of imagery. So that's really kind of cool in terms of doctoring, if you will, or modifying images, whether they're real photographs or actually photorealistic things created from scratch. It's kind of cool. For example, they say, let's say you have an image of a kitchen and you're a magazine and you're showing off a design of a kitchen, but for some reason you don't want the stools at the bar to be part of the image. Well, you can use this tool to pull those out automatically for you. Pretty sophisticated. Mm-hmm. And it goes on to say it's still a work in progress, but the team hopes that GAN Paint Studio might one day edit, wait for it, video clips. Uh-oh, that's getting interesting. Imagine this incredibly intelligent and articulate technology and powerful for still images. But what if you could do this to video clips? Ooh. Now, on a positive side, it says if, for instance, an essential prop were left out of a film scene, editors could use artificial intelligence to add it in later. But you can already see the nefarious other side, the dark side of this manipulating videos, right? Finally, it says, while GAN Paint Studio makes it easy to create fake images, it could also help computer scientists and others to learn to spot them. So lots of things going on in this story, I think.
Yeah, like you said, there's been a lot of fake images, and I'm happy to see that this particular story is highlighting something that they're all trying to do now, where I think thanks to Adobe and a lot of these other tools, editing photos has become super easy, super commonplace, and we all have a nice, healthy distrust of photographs now. We have to learn to develop that for video. We have to learn to say that, just like a photo can be photoshopped, video can be, I guess, video shopped or photoshopped, and video can be faked. And now we all have to, I guess, kind of change our brains into thinking, what we're seeing is not necessarily real. The thing that I like about this is that now we're moving into the space where it's not about can we edit it, can we change it? It's about can we spot the changes after they've happened, and that's a part that we need to get ahead of before, editing video becomes commonplace like editing photos is. So
well, yeah, and Ben, to have an AI system or tool that has the ability to look at a video or a still image and without my intervention, go through an analysis and say, I think this tree really isn't part of the original image, or I think this person really wasn't standing next to this politician at this point, or that kind of thing could be, wow, really pretty interesting, especially when you consider how fast with supercomputer and so forth this could be done. You could get almost real-time analysis of images and or potentially someday video clips, right? So that's kind of something.
So here, real quick, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you just so that, let's see, it's going to be this one. And everyone out there watching the video portion, you can see it here as well. I thought that I recalled something that was very similar to this. The one that we covered was this article from Engadget, Paint GAN, I think, or
GAN Paint,
GAN Paint, and it seems so familiar. It's because I've seen this before. This was back in March, so January, February, March, so 3 or so months ago. And if anyone, wait, maybe this will work. Maybe it won't. Maybe
I can see your screen. No problem.
Yeah. I'm having a problem actually playing the video, but here's kind of a GIF that they show later on.
I see it.
And it's almost the same thing. Where think of like a very rudimentary Microsoft Paint kind of palette, and you can say put a tree, put a plant, sand, gravel, wood, brush, stone, and what would look like a child sketch to you can see over here on the right, very quickly becomes just an actual image.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah,
it's freaky deaky.
Yeah, and that was back in March, and I'm sure now that now according to the name change, I'm sure that they got a new partner and they're continuing to develop this. Right. And even beyond that, I even found this other article from Time saying that a painting made by artificial intelligence sold at auction for about $430,000.
Oh yeah.
Ralph, we've been talking to you for a while now. For a number of years. Didn't we kind of go into the artificial machine learning, artificial intelligence era, saying the last jobs that are going to be taken are going to be the creative jobs, the easily automated jobs, the jobs that were one repetitive motion over and over again. Those would be quickly automated, but the creative jobs were going to be around forever. And it doesn't seem that way. I've heard AI make music. I've seen AI make paintings.
Yep.
What's up with that?
Yeah. Well, you're really on target for that. This goes back to always goes back to Skynet. We don't need people. We don't need people. Let the machines take over.
Well, here's the problem. Have we taught machines to appreciate art? That's the question, because obviously we can create them to we can make them to create art, but can they appreciate art? And when do we get our first robot snob? That's my question. So Ralph, we're actually about to head into break here in about 20 seconds, but why don't we go ahead and tease story number 5?
Yeah. So story number 5 from SciTech Daily. Here's the headline: Scientists develop electronic pill that can be controlled wirelessly. So here we have a number of technologies coming together to help in the health field.
Definitely a strange looking device, and there's
Yes.
music. So, Ralph, we're gonna come back in just a moment. Everyone out there, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. We're only halfway done, and how are we doing on time, Ralph? Let's see, halfway done, and about halfway done on the stories. We're doing pretty good.
Not too bad.
I'm loving the new format. Everyone, hey, we hope that you're having fun out there too. ComputerAmerica.com, Ralph Bond, more. We'll be right back right after this. Everyone, stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour, and everyone, if you miss any part of today's show, be that, of course, any conversation with Ralph, or if you want to go back and listen to some of our commentary on these stories, the podcast, wherever podcasts are heard, search Computer America, and it should come right up. That will be available after the program, of course, live radio, or, of course, the video portion as well. Ralph, thank you for continuing on with us. And let's see, let's actually just unmute you so people can actually hear your lovely voice. There you go. We're good. And
all right.
Yeah, perfect. So everyone, we are doing, science and tech trends news and that kind of thing. And we were just about to move on to a pill that's, man, just like the plane from a couple stories ago, I've never seen a pill look quite like this. So
yes,
let's
I'm not so sure it would feel very good going down through your system, but nonetheless, it's an interesting story. So this again comes from SciTech Daily, a story by Anne Trafton. Headline: Scientists develop electronic pill that can be controlled wirelessly. Wow, what isn't going wireless, right? Here we go. Researchers at MIT, Draper, and Brigham and Women's Hospital have designed an ingestible capsule that can be controlled using Bluetooth wireless technology. Well, what isn't Bluetooth these days? Everything is Bluetooth, right?
Absolutely.
The capsule, which can be customized to deliver drugs, can sense environmental conditions or both. It can reside in the stomach for at least a month, transmitting information and responding to instructions from a user's smartphone. And actually, it goes on later, you find out from your physician's phone as well, right? So this is pretty interesting.
So to just jump in there, first things first, maybe that's what's with the, for anyone out there watching the video portion, for those of you who aren't, think of two antennas. Honestly, a little snail-like. A little snail-like is kind of what it looks like to me. So I'm assuming that because they said a pill, you swallow it, But then how do they make sure it doesn't continue on its merry way through the digestive process?
You
That's
know
weird.
what? They didn't explain that in the article, and I was sharing the story with a friend, and he said the same thing.
Yeah,
He said,
like-
"Well, this is all well and good, but how do you make sure it kind of stays put? Because everything down there is on its way out the door at some point, right?"
And of course, a pill, like, I kind of get if they just called it a pill for the shape of it, but like they did not say implant. Like if it was an implant, I get that.
Yeah.
But if you
No,
swallow
I
it-
couldn't agree with you more, and
Strange.
I think maybe if we could research this
Yeah,
story
sure.
a little bit deeper, we might find out how do you pull that trick off. But with that said, it goes on to say the capsules manufactured using 3D printing technology could be deployed to deliver drugs to treat a variety of diseases, particularly in cases where drugs must be taken over a long period of time. And I'm also thinking about maybe people who have mental disabilities, senility, something like this, but they need a medication administered regularly over an extended period of time. Perhaps something like this could be helpful because they might not remember to take their meds, or on and on. So there's some interesting possibilities there. These capsules could also be designed to sense infections, allergic reactions, or other events, and then release a drug in response. That's kind of cool. It says these devices could also be used to communicate with other wearable and implantable medical devices. So think of like a network, Internet of Things inside your body, right? So these devices, again, could be used to communicate with other wearable and implantable medical devices, which could pool information to be communicated to the patient's or doctor's smartphone. Wow. The researchers envision this type of sensor could be used to diagnose early signs of disease and then respond with the appropriate medication. For example, it could be used to monitor certain people at high risk for infection, such as patients who are receiving chemotherapy or immunosuppressive drugs. If the infection is detected, the capsule could begin releasing antibiotics, or the device could be designed to release antihistamines when it detects an allergic reaction. But you made the key point. How do you keep this thing
I figured
in
it out.
your tummy, right? How does that work?
I figured it out. It's
Oh,
actually
good.
right. Yeah, it's actually right here in the article at SciTech Daily, and they
good.
said in their last study they had a one that was a star-shaped capsule with 6 arms that would fold up before being encased in a smooth capsule. After being swallowed, the capsule would dissolve and the arms would expand, allowing the device to lodge in the stomach. Similarly, and this is what the device that we're talking about, the new device unfolds into a Y shape after being swallowed. This enables the device to remain in the stomach for about a month before it breaks into smaller pieces and then passes through the digestive tract.
Wow, thanks for digging that up, because that is a key question. How in the heck do you keep this thing in there?
So-
You solved the riddle.
Yeah, so it's all folded up nice and neatly in a smooth capsule. You swallow it and then it unfolds. You don't have to worry about how do I swallow this weird looking device. It's just like any other pill for anyone else. So it's perfect. And then of course the little the 4 little compartments, like you said, can release on either on notification or if it does it itself. I mean, this is really, really cool. And obviously, people in long-term care, Ralph, I'm hoping that you haven't been to the hospital since you had your heart surgery. And
I have, but for nothing that dire.
okay, good. But if anyone out there who's been to the hospital lately, hospitals are quickly becoming much more
Yes.
involved with technology, where everything is. You're no longer, let's just say you're no longer Ben. They walk in, they beep your wrist, and they beep their computer, and everything kind of goes automatically into this electronic database, and just to make sure that no one gets the wrong pills. Like they have left nothing up to the human error, and everything is now technology. So this could be one another, where if you're taking care of someone for a long time, hey, you might not see a nurse for a couple hours, but you'll still get your medication. So
Yeah, and you make a good point, because this device, as designed, can intercommunicate with other wearable or implanted technologies in your body, and it's that kind of, I call it like the Internet of Things within your own body, all coordinated information and so forth. So it might also help mistakes from happening too. So you make a good point.
there you go. And of course, hey, Skynet's one thing, cyborgs are another. This one was cool though. I definitely like that. So story number 6. Let's go ahead and kind of poke on along here.
Yeah, more medical stuff, right? And if you've ever had an endoscopic treatment or a diagnostic
favorite.
exam, whether this direction or the other direction, it's usually. I remember once the physician said to me, said, "Ralph, we can keep you awake and you can watch on the TV screen as we do this procedure. Would you want to do that?" And I said, "No,
Did
doc.
you
Send me to Happy Land now."
did you say only if you let me control it as well?
Yeah, well, now that I should have said, if I could have the joystick. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. Well, here's the story. It's from a University of Leeds. That's an institution in the United Kingdom. Their press release, which was posted on Science Daily magazine, the headline, "A miniature robot that could check colons for early signs of disease." So this is another medical technology advancement story, and I'm very prone to these medical and stories, and also stories to help the disabled, as you know. But here we go. It says, University of Leeds engineers have shown it is technically possible to guide a tiny robotic capsule inside the colon to take micro ultrasound images. Now, it's the navigation that's the really key thing going on here. They call this technology Sonopill, Sonopill. The device could one day replace the need for patients to undergo an endoscopic examination, where a semi-rigid scope on a big long tube, folks, is passed into the bowel, and an invasive procedure which can be painful. If it's done well, it's usually not a big deal, but it can be uncomfortable, especially if you go down the mouth with an endoscope.
Yeah,
that
of course.
can be
A lot
very
of soft
painful.
tissue. Yeah.
Yeah, you can feel like you've had a terrible sore throat afterward. I've been there, done that. Anyway, micro ultrasound images also have the advantage of being better able to identify some types of cell change associated with cancer. Now, the consortium has developed a technique called intelligent magnetic manipulation. You're going to love this, Ben. Based on the principle that magnets can attract and repel one another. We all know that from childhood, playing around with magnets, right? A series of magnets on a robotic arm that passes over the patient interacts with a magnet inside the capsule, gently maneuvering it through the colon. Let that sink in. Isn't that cool? An artificial intelligence system ensures the smooth capsule can position itself correctly against the gut wall to get the best quality micro ultrasound images. And then finally, a very small flexible cable, much smaller than the usual endoscopic tube, right? So the small flexible cable is tethered to the capsule, which also passes into the body via the rectum. Sorry, it's a little gross, and sends ultrasound images back to a computer in the examination room. So a friend of mine also, I shared this story with, he said, it all sounds great, but you're still having to, like a fishing line, pull this thing back out again. I'd rather it just be all wireless and just dissolve when it's all done and I go home.
Yeah.
But a great story.
Yeah, well, and I'm actually kind of curious about how the magnets actually keep it positioned. That part, and like immediately in my mind, I'm thinking of all the magnets that I've played with. Are you sandwiched between two magnets, and then they kind of use a computer to control the magnet? Like obviously they mentioned robot arm and that kind of thing. Right. I have no idea how that would work.
I would love to, and what I really regret is the article didn't have an image of a patient, being treated.
Pretty
Maybe
clearly why they didn't.
Unpleasant, or as my mother, bless her soul, would have said, how unseemly. But anyway, it would have been interesting to see how this works. A video or something like that would have been very helpful.
A nice, cheery little animation of a colon being
An
probed.
animation. That's the answer.
That's what we're looking for. But hey, like you said, anything that changes traditional medical procedures, I'm all for. So
yeah, me too. Well, diagnostic procedures and so forth. It's just a lot of medicine on my mind this week, as you can see with story number 7 coming up too.
Absolutely, yeah. And hey, makes it more comfortable. So there's that one. And actually, this is actually pretty related to the story with Comcast and Xfinity. But yeah, mind controlling and robot arms, and hey, this is everything that you promised this show would be.
Now, this one's very upbeat and very encouraging, especially for anybody who is severely disabled or has a friend or relative who's in this boat. So, story comes from a really interesting website, MedGadget. So, MED for medical, gadget, run together as one word, medgadget.com. Check it out. It's very, very interesting. Headline, severely disabled people mind control a robotic arm via electroencephalogram. All right. Let's get into this, because the image, if you have the show notes, and thanks, Ben, for showing that on the screen, you can see the patient or the test person is wearing kind of, looks like a bathing cap with all these little devices attached to it. So it's a very, dense and cumbersome thing, but you all know how all this could evolve and become much sleeker and simpler as time goes on. So this is in the development stages. So here we go. It says, scientific collaborators from Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Minnesota have created a way for people to control a robotic arm using a non-invasive brain-computer interface. Ding, ding, ding. This is so important. Previously, here's why it's so revolutionary. Previously, electrode array implants in the brain have been necessary to give severely disabled people the ability to manipulate an external robot. So we're talking about, before this, you had to implant stuff in the patient's brain, right? Yeah. Yikes. The Carnegie Mellon team turned to a newly developed sensing and machine learning methods, that's related to artificial intelligence, folks, to accurately read signals coming from deep within the brain, relying only on an external electroencephalography cap for signal gathering. So these caps...
You nailed that word, by the way.
Say again, Ben?
You nailed that word, by the way. Good job.
I've been practicing it, and I had it played on the on the browser, Google, saying to me over and over again, "It's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Don't try to say that more than once in a row."
Absolutely.
But it looks, if you've ever had a cardiac exam, you go to the doctor and you lie down and they put the little circular disc things on your body. For those of you who don't have the show notes in front of you, that's what these little discs look like. And in the picture, it shows this person with a cap with, probably 100 of these things on their head, which is kind of interesting. But going on here, the system can quickly improve both its performance and that of the person using it to achieve drastically better results than previous solutions. That's the machine learning part of this equation that they're talking about. And finally, it says volunteers using the technology were put through a pursuit task and a training regimen to improve their engagement while the system was performing an analysis of their brain signals. And there is a video. You can check it out. That's kind of cool. So again, another one of these very encouraging, very exciting breakthroughs, because instead of having to implant something in the poor patient's brain, we could do something with an external sensor, maybe someday a little helmet or something that wouldn't be too difficult to manage, to allow the person who's severely disabled to control what we now have amazingly articulate robotic arms.
So, and one of my favorite points to bring up to people when it comes to machine learning is that we don't know how robots learn. Like we can give a robot a task saying, do X. And in this case, let's just say this one, machine learning, your task is to help this person control this arm. And,
right.
If their brain signals kind of go all radical, it means that they're trying to say no. If they are trying to catch this ball, let's say in this video, and you do it properly, then the brain signals are X and you're good to go. Essentially, we just kind of give it the parameters. We say, here's your mission, here are the rules, here's what you have to do. And then the machine teaches itself, hence machine learning.
Right.
Scientists don't know how it does it. We can set it up for success, and then after it's all said and done, the machine is its own thing. And, if it doesn't do what you want it to, you have to erase the whole thing and start all over again. Like, that's what the training part is. I find it very interesting that, these machines are learning kind of with us, and I guess we're better off for it. Because, Ralph, do you recall back when speech recognition first came out?
Yes.
You kind of had to read
vividly
to your machine to kind of train it on your voice.
Yes. Yes.
This is kind of the same thing, except you're actually training the computer to control your robotic arm. So.
Well, and Ben, I can't resist my old soapbox about augmented humans. in robotics and in other fields, where I believe we are headed is the augmentation of humans. I think standalone robots, cyborg, whatever, well, not cyborg, but like standalone, cognizant someday Terminator robots,
Androids.
fine. But what's really real, what I really think is happening is we're augmenting ourselves. And that's where I think the future of a lot of this technology comes into play, where machine learning and the human learning hold hands.
Yeah.
And to create a better existence.
Yeah, and hey, if machine learning comes in a form that you teach it to do a complex task and it makes your life easier, that's the goal. And you can see where Ralph is taking that to the nth degree. What if you have a full-blown android with you that's your companion throughout life, that just helps you do, just, hey, 2 people are better than 1, and a robot and a person are better than 2 people. Now, let's hope that day comes to fruition. And like you said, no Skynet. Story number 8. Let's go ahead and do that. And then
yes, now this one's really just for fun. I couldn't resist this because, Ben, right now my son and his peers and my daughter and so forth, a lot of the younger folks in their 30s and younger are into what I call technology nostalgia. There's the resurgence of turntables and vinyl records and things that I thought I'd never see come back, right? Well, guess what? The dorky old cassette has certain parts of the community that find this amusing. I think it has a lot to do with the Guardians of the Galaxy first movie, where he has that mixtape that he took when he was abducted by aliens and as a kid. I think that's the beginning of this kind of resurgence of fascination with cassette players among age groups that never had them personally, right? The old Walkman from Sony. So here's the story. It comes from The Verge. The headline is, "A portable Bluetooth cassette tape player brings retro audio into 2019. Now, the product is called, it's a funny name. It's Okay is the name of the product. Looks to cash in on your Walkman nostalgia. We have a picture for you in the show notes and all that good stuff. Here's the funny bits from the story. Cassette tapes are having a minor comeback. Sales were somehow up almost 19% year over year in 2018. And where there's a market, there's a Kickstarter project looking to cash in. Case in point, the NIM, that's the outfit, NIM, NIM, and the device is called It's Okay. Very strange name. It's sort of what a portable cassette player like an original Walkman would be if Sony continued to develop tape-based technology into 2019. So while the It's Okay does the usual tape things like playing cassettes or letting you record to tapes, it also bills itself as the world's first Bluetooth 5.0 portable cassette player, a claim of such niche specificity that it seems to be true, the author says tongue-in-cheek. It allows you to listen to your favorite jams and on wireless headphones, or even link it to a Bluetooth speaker should you wish. NIM is selling the It's Okay for an early Kickstarter price of $75 in either pink, white, or navy blue colors, and delivery is estimated for December. And then in my show notes, if you scroll down, I went out to Amazon. I said, well, where am I going to get content? And lo and behold, you can buy the Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 1 soundtrack for $9 here on Amazon, and other things, blank cassettes, other music cassettes. So go figure. I just thought this was so quirky, it would be fun to share.
For personal reasons, we had to kind of go through our old VHS tapes yesterday. Oh my God. Cassettes and VHSs and other tape devices, no offense, I don't miss them. Maybe it's the people who, like you said, are a bit younger and never had to deal with them. And I don't say the arduousness, because it was just a tape, but the inconvenience of a tape is novel compared to all the convenience that we have today, I guess.
Well, it's vulnerability too, over time. I just finished digitizing approximately 120 family starting with VHS, then into the high 8, then into the digital high 8, and then into the mini high, I have all the cameras and the tapes and all this crazy stuff. Holy smokers, I finally got it all digitized.
I gotta do that.
A massive task. And friends, here's my shaking finger at you. If you're old like me and you started your family movies with VHS, you had better digitize those as soon as possible because they deteriorate. They are not eternal.
No.
They are not like digital media where we can put it in the cloud or we can put it on an SD card and put it in the safe deposit box at the bank and whatever. Please remember this. So that's so important.
I'll have to do that. And just real quick, just to pick your brain, what's the best way to do that? Because I know that there are services that will do it for you. I know that you
Sure.
can buy devices. What was 120 is quite a number. What's the best way?
Well, a lot of patience, and by the grace of God, my original capture cameras, all had 1394 Wi-Fi. So I was able to 1394 my cable connect my cameras to my computer and using video capture software, capture them all and get it at least digitized, right?
Okay.
Now, my VHS stuff, thank goodness, many years ago, Ben, I bought a dedicated Sony box that did nothing but let you plug in a VHS and it would output a copy onto DVD. So by the grace of God, I did all that with the VHSs, so I had that going for me. But then I still had probably 60 or 70 high 8, well, we would call them mini cassettes now, which I just popped the camera, connected to the PC, captured the video, and I'm just archiving it. I'm not doing any editing or anything like that yet, but it's a massive undertaking. And the thing again, friends, is tape deteriorates. Now, digital tape, which my later tape cameras had, helps because it's just bits and bytes. But the analog tape stuff, that's where it's very scary. You might see pink tones on the edges or weird stuff, and that's all due to age. And of course, it depends on how have you been storing your tapes all these decades. If they've been in a humid, hot situation, God help you, right? So there's many factors. Just the alarm bell is please digitize as soon as you can. There are services, very expensive. It also scares me to send my precious tapes away someplace and hope they come back, right? So I did it all myself.
All right. No, very good advice. And like I said, we're going to have to do that here soon. All right. So we have time for like one more, even half story. And Ralph, I wanted you to jump over to story number 10, if you would.
Sure.
Because this seems really, really cool.
Yes,
and a good way
this
to
is
end
fun, and we can do it pretty quick. So this drone swarms are all the thing, right? At the Super Bowl halftime, remember the incredibly dramatic drone.
The 2016 was it the 2016
yeah,
Winter
right. The
Olympics
Olympics
in Sochi?
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing drone things, right? Where in fact, Intel was really big with the Super Bowl thing, using all the compute power to help coordinate these drones to create shapes and figures and animations in the sky, right? Through lights on the drones. Fine. This is a story from TechCrunch. Headline is, "This drone swarm spray painted a jumbo-sized graffiti mural," which I just thought was sort of a kick. There's a good image of it here. What happened, there's this design firm in Italy. They put together this project taking line art contributions from a bunch of artists and people, and then stitched it all together over a 12-hour period of time using 4 drones, each equipped with a spray can of different colors. And the project was called the Urban Flying Opera. And they combined all these images together, and each drone provided by Tsuru, I hope I'm saying that right, TSURU Robotics, was operated as part of a whole with multiple positioning monitoring systems, making sure they didn't accidentally bump into each other. The mural is 46 feet wide by 39 feet tall, and so forth. But I think the thing that's interesting is not so much this particular project, but what does this mean? It means maybe you could have really quickly done advertisement billboards or other things, very fluid, very easy to do by having a little army of choreographed and controlled drones dispensing. Or maybe you can have drones that go out and hunt down unpleasant graffiti and eradicate it as well. So you could do some really interesting things with this kind of drone swarm technology as shown in this story.
Yeah, and I don't know if they make kind of biodegradable paint or something like, paint that eventually washes off or deteriorates. But yeah, you could do some pretty cool, graffiti that you wouldn't be able to do in any other way. So I like this idea, and like you said, it was just 100 different artists and a different way to use drones. I love drones, and I'm glad that they're seeing a lot of different applications. But Ralph, we are about done for the day. So before we, kind of get going here, and by the way, we did not do, let's see, I think we skipped story number 9, 11, 12, and I think you have a 13. Yes, you have a 13 here.
Yep.
Ralph, I like your new system, and I like the new format. It's just, hey, we just couldn't get through it all anyways. Ralph, if people want to find out more about you and just your writings, your musings, what it is that you're doing in your quote unquote semi-retirement, where can they go?
Yes. Yeah, super easy. Just point your browser to my name, Ralph, and then Bond, B-O-N-D, and then the word Wix, W-I-X. That'll take you right to my website. You can see all the things I'm doing with Computer America and other fun stuff I'm doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And of course, we hope to see you over at Computer America as well, where we will have a link in the show notes. Ralph, until next week, have a great one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, and everyone out there, thank you for tuning in. We are about done Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back all next week. Everyone, be good. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye. And Ralph, enjoy your movie.
Hey, thank you.
Bye-bye.